I wanted to finish this inflation talk off with a little talk about Bitcoin and what is it for the average person, maybe the newcomer who's like, I heard about Bitcoin, I know it's money or it's used as money, but really, what is it? This whole stream was about inflation, right? The TLDR on inflation is whether you think the government causes it or the banks cause it, or it just happens because prices change. What we do know is inflation, it eats away at the value of your money, your fiat dollars, your US dollars, your euros, whatever. And this makes things pricier over time. If your money is worth less, the thing you're trying to buy will require more of your dollars to purchase. How do you protect yourself? Well, traditionally, wealthy people, smart investors, they hold assets that keep up with the rising costs, right? In general, gold, real estate, and just any inflation protected securities, they can help shield your wealth. And now in this futuristic Web3 world, we have Bitcoin. And I think every investor should understand Bitcoin, even if you don't ever touch it, okay? But basically, Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto. He introduced this white paper that called for a decentralized, peer-to-peer digital currency that eliminates the middleman that exists in traditional finance, namely the banks. This would allow for direct transactions between me and you. Some of the key characteristics of Bitcoin. Number one, it's proof of work. That means it's extremely secure, being that it costs money for these network participants to unlock or release new tokens into circulation. And there is a schedule that dictates how many new tokens can be released over a certain amount of time, block by block, right? It's like kind of every couple of minutes, a block is produced and some Bitcoin gets unlocked. There's an inflation schedule for Bitcoin. Every 4 years, the inflation goes down. It's non-inflationary, which means, or disinflationary. It's anti-inflationary compared to dollars. And the reason why this costs money to run the network and release Bitcoin is because miners, they call them miners, they run these computer systems that solve computational puzzles that result in a super secure fraud prevention system that we call the Bitcoin network, right? It's like the source of truth, protected by how expensive and difficult it is to include transactions or change transactions that are in a block. Besides having decreasing inflation every 4 years, Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million coins. This creates kind of a digital scarcity, and this built-in limit guards against further inflation. It preserves value over time, and this might make Bitcoin a great hedge against inflation. Transparency is the other feature of Bitcoin that we have to keep in mind. It's a public ledger, right? Blockchains are basically just ledgers. They're ways to account for transactions, and Bitcoin tracks all the transactions on the network. Every transaction is visible to everyone, reducing the risk of corruption. And then finally, Bitcoin's trustless. It's borderless. You don't need to rely on banks or third parties to direct your transactions or manage your transactions in any way. Bitcoin relies on cryptography and consensus. It removes the need to trust a centralized authority. Remember, centralized authorities can remove money from your account anytime they want. They can reverse your transactions anytime they want, and they don't need to answer to you. So Bitcoin, building this trustless system, it's peer-to-peer. You eliminate that source of risk in the network. But is Bitcoin a great hedge against inflation? Well, so far it's been increasing, depending on the time frames you look at. Bitcoin's price has been increasing. Is it because it's an anti-inflation cryptocurrency? Well, compared to proof of stake tokens, which are highly inflationary, at least at the onset. Bitcoin has proven to be a great store of value within crypto itself. Bitcoin has outperformed, just about every token that's out there. But can this be considered an institutional grade investment given its volatility? It is volatile by traditional standards. Will Bitcoin become a reliable hedge against inflation when these fiat currencies fluctuate against the goods they're used to purchase? How viable is the network, given that it is expensive to run? How viable is Bitcoin as a global payment network in a rapidly digitized world, I should say? Is transparency always a good thing? Is the fixed supply a good thing? Is the fact that it's proof of work a good thing? Even if you never plan to spend a penny on it in your life, it will be there. There are ETFs. You could self-custody. You could buy it with a custodian like Coinbase. My suggestion would be to learn about it, learn about inflation, the causes, the effects, and how you can protect yourself from the loss of purchasing power of the dollars that you use to buy food and gas and subscriptions on Pornhub, whatever you do with your money.
Every quantum leap, I'm finding myself trapped inside of people. Differences underneath the fundamental side of ego. Truly not that equal. That's why they say don't meet your heroes. We are part of this evil, so pardon all my amigos.